Hey folks, Zanzibarzi here with another Mindustry Hex Wars matchup. We caught just a brief frame of the previous game right there, but now it is right on to a fresh start. We're here in the Eviction server. This is hosted by Larofeticus, my favorite server. Been played here a long time, about 2 years ago. I was the top player. It was a somewhat weak time in terms of overall players. There weren't a ton of people devoting a lot of time to it. Right after me, Pobornik emerged as a very strong player, if you're familiar with them. And today things have changed quite a bit. There's a whole different methods of playing. You know, back when I was playing a lot was on V6, the previous version of the game. I did play V7 a little bit. The major change between them was RTS controls. You have complete control over your units now. You can individually command them to go wherever you want them to. But yeah, let me jump back over to the start of the match. It's kind of similar to old videos of mine. If you've seen my older videos from 2 years ago, it's not completely different here. We're still getting coal. We're still starting with silicon. I have an amazing hex right here. I got water. I got plenty of coal up there. I watered the mech drills to really juice that coal up and use some of it for steam gens. Right there, that's my source of power right here. Used to be diff gens, also very sad. I missed that water line under the bridge there. Might have caught it. Moving it a bit fast, and I forgot to turn on my daggers, so those haven't been working the last minute and 30 seconds that they could have been. So I'm a little bit delayed to the next hex. So you can see a little bit of rust here. I'm misclicking my hotkeys there too. But I've been playing for a couple of days at this point to get back into it, to relearn the meta. And the best way to start, I actually copied a lot of my start from RZ, from watching their videos. They're on YouTube, great creator, one of the best players in the game today. And so I went through, watched, and just wrote down everything that they did in order, and I copied that for my start. So yeah, silicon, then the dagger, the meta, the graphite, you gotta put sand in the coal, you gotta put coal in the coal core, and then the triple mono, so we never run out of copper and lead. We're still gonna run out of copper and lead because we build really fast, but after 5-10 minutes, you're not going to run out of copper lead anymore. As long as the monos don't get sniped, they can definitely be sniped. This little graphite's a little gratuitous here, but like I said, we're a little bit slow to the second hex. And actually, now I say it, we're already out of copper and lead, but yeah, we'll run out a little bit early on. Anyway, yeah, triple mono, grab your thorium, grab your titanium. I'm feeling rich, and I don't have the second hex, so I'm going to keep upgrading here with a second laser on thorium. Really gonna juice that, and I noticed titanium is a bit low. That's because the water has not been plugged in. Oh, I forgot to mention the audio is slightly scuffed because the mic was on the whole game. So you can hear my clicky-clack mouse clicks, my keyboard occasionally. But yeah, it's time for a second steam gen. Like I said, very lucky with this spawn. I've got a lot of coal. Got all that water right there. I use it to the full efficiency. Finally noticed that leak under the bridge, and we're off and running. I built extra metaglass because I saw all the water. You can see I have too much metaglass though. Just a habit. And I built that a little early. It gets blasted, but that's fine. Micro the daggers, micro the daggers. Now it's time for diff gen. That's another thing I just picked up. We're building diff gens right off the core now. I've built quite a few of them in the wild manually, but it's just very efficient to build it right on the core. You don't have to do all that wiring up of all the coal, sand, lead, all into that pyrotype mixer. Just one unloader handles all of it for you. Fantastic right there. Still looking for that water. That's another relatively recent change. Well, it was a change right when I stopped basically making videos, that water is accessible on the Eviction server, but it is, and so I try and make full use of it. I got, again, really lucky having water all over the place. That's saving me so much power, so much graphite right here. Huge benefits whenever you see that. Definitely go and grab it. You will save a ton on the water extractor and the power cost of it. So that's why I can just spam air blasts all over the place. Should have built polys by now probably, but what are we on, our third-ish silicon? Need some graphite. I decided to go for the big boys because usually when you're building these, I'm completely out of graphite. I had enough graphite to afford the big guy right there. And I'm just trusting in the power of the double steam gen. I think I would have run out of power by now if not for all of the water pumps. Doing some heavy lifting. Now we finally got our third hex, but now we're going to start really quickly expanding. Now we drop the poly in. This big chunky metaglass is a legacy of the old times. I still like it. It still works. It works great in my opinion. It is a bit excessive with the bridges, but sometimes that's what you need in order to get everything transported without making it any less compact. So it's perfectly efficient, and I toss on a bunch of scatters on it. There we go with a diff-gen design. I think that's from Giselle. Goes by different names. A lot of people go by different names in this server. That's just the name that I know them by. Going for even more silicon. I should have probably made plast, a little bit of lead on that. Surge, phase, consider that, but one-track mind. Silicon is God in Mindustry. A new revelation since V6, certainly, and was just kind of starting when I quit the game was having a sandy core. That's putting sand in the core, putting coal in the core. Everybody does that now. You got to do that to win, basically. The argument for me was always against doing it, was I thought I can make things perfectly efficient, zero waste in terms of building materials when you're building them outside of core. You're not balancing perfectly. My rationale is if you have to feed it through the core, then you've got to keep constantly messing with the balance, adding more sand, adding more coal, adding more lead, whatever you need. In reality, that's pretty easy to do, to get that balance right. So you don't need to make perfectly efficient. Well, your perfectly efficient schemes are great, but they can be a lot more difficult to place than just something on a core. Again, I got lucky with the oil there to make the plast. It's a nice little patch. I don't know if that's quite enough for 2 factories, or maybe it's more enough for even 3, but I think it's convenient whenever you can find oil so that you don't have to build the costly oil extractor. Also, that's very power hungry pump, so cheap. So I kind of gave up on threading that thorium. Just bridge it. It's fine. And we have one neighbor to the north here that's a less experienced player. You can see they haven't really expanded at all. I took this hex from them. Just gonna drop down metascatters. Need those on every single hex now. That's another change. Because you can perfectly control the units, they can attack anywhere, anytime. So flares are a big problem. The little T1 flyers. Those guys can just get in everywhere and destroy your unprotected cores in a matter of seconds. So again, taking advantage of the water. Like I said, I had a really good spawn. So even though I'm kind of slow in placing everything down, I'm getting these big advantages from this water everywhere. And so I have not run out of graphite yet, which is usually happening at this point, and I'm able to afford all these big graphite presses. That should hold for a while. I'm not sure that was quite enough water, so pop in a little bit more. And what to do next? Surge phase. We're already at 10 minutes, so I'm behind schedule for getting a dome up, for getting surge and phase. Power is probably low. We've been going off about 6 differential generators so far. And that's my first thought. Actually, I'm going to make this little corner hex. It's a scheme I made right before I quit 2 years ago. And it's a little weird. I actually am not even going to get it going for a while, for quite a while, for like another 3 or 4 minutes, because I forgot to build phase. And it relies on a phase bridge, so I've got to change it. But it does a pretty good job once it's running, of building a little bit of everything. You got 3 silicon crucibles, 2 metaglass, and 1 graphite in there, all sandwiched in a little tight package that you can build outside of. A lot of people will build that with the sand and coal integrated, and that is effective. It's a little bit harder to place. You can see my opponent here, Catgirl, has come all the way across the map. Well, they're not my only opponent, but they're going to be the primary opponent, spoiler, in this match. And I am now concerned that all of my cores could be sniped at any time. And my first thought is meta scatters, because they have a boatload of flares there. You saw them for just a moment in the corner, bottom left. Always a concern. I'm going to build some maces. The T2 was really also very underappreciated back in my day. The mace has a lot of attack, packs a nice punch. They're the little flamethrower guys. We will see them in action later. They're very high damage, but once you are up to swarmers, they're kind of useless, like all T2. Finally, I noticed that I don't have any phase, and I don't have a great phase maker. I mean, I'll make one in a minute, but I like to just make the phase by hand here. Get my underflows and overflows right. But this time I have so many polys that I should really just figure out a scheme that I can pop down fast, because the polys can outbuild how quick I can click. Still do not have surge. Definitely behind on that now. At 12 minutes, I should be getting some domes going. And instead I'm making more thorium, which I have enough of right now, but we're going to plop down even more phase. This will ensure that I have phase for at least a little while. Pretty deep into the game, really. I don't have to build phase again. And finally can make that phase bridge. So yeah, about 3 minutes after placing that, it's finally done. Now I notice that my daggers have been just feeding that 1 hex the Catgirl took. And yeah, they're getting wiped out by the hails. So I have no daggers. I've got barely any units. Definitely behind on units. But I've got pretty okay defenses for this moment. Zeniths honestly could hit right now. They would be in low numbers that probably I could deal with the scatter, but I am very vulnerable to a fast Zenith attack, which I got killed by right after this in the next game. I mean, it wasn't even that fast. I died to a mid-game Zenith rush, but this game I have this God spawn, and Catgirl has to fight. Catgirl is either RZ or Sire, I'm not entirely sure. But they are, I think, the top-ranked player right now. I think we caught that at some point. So they are a very good opponent. Finally building surge at 14 minutes almost 14 minutes. I guess it's a little bit less than that, but anyway, behind schedule. We're able to reclaim this hex that Catgirl threw the flares at to grab an early block on me. Now I can build even more surge so we can catch up and spam the massive late game thorium reactor, which is going to keep us powered forever. Once we finally build all of it. 5 of them for now is going to be quite a bit of power, and we were able to afford the dome, which is fantastic. We'll wire up some coal, because I notice we're out of coal. That's where the change. So now we got coal and sand in the core. I've got to keep balancing them, but you can see it's remarkably easy to just balance them. I just slap a couple air blasts on coal or sand. Obviously sand is the most abundant resource, so no problem getting a bunch of sand. I'm out of thorium completely somehow. I don't know. I must have like just a single air blast on thorium or something. Not sure how I survived to this point with so little, but this takes me a minute to fix as well, but we're going to manually plop in a phase maker right there. So we got the... Oh, and I didn't even put the phase into the overdrive. I didn't even catch that during game. So that thing's just making phase for free for nothing. Oh well. That phase was supposed to go into the little overdrive projector right next to it. I just needed a junction in order to get it over there, but I missed it. I don't think I ever fixed that. Still low on coal. I should have overdrive projected those at least too, or even domed them, but I didn't. Still low on thorium. Now that's like 6 air blasts of thorium that I've built to recover, so we should rapidly increase in a short time. We're a bit low on titanium, but everything's somewhat balanced right now for me. So making great progress, especially because I have no more attacks. I had that one flare attack, but really I'm getting away with quite a bit here. Not having to build, not facing any Z units, a fortress or T3 until, 16 minutes-ish? It's quite nice. Finally, though, I do have the swarmers ready. Still, in particular, like this hex was quite vulnerable. I've just got 4 salvos that would have a lot of work cut out for them if they faced a lot of zenith attacks, but it is important to go back and dome your course, as I'm doing right here. Get those domes going. That was a thing I really loved back in the day when we kind of discovered how good domes are. Massively improve your economy. This hex is a bit vulnerable. The force projectors, another thing that were underrated in the past, because you couldn't use the flares to just go around and snipe everything, you didn't have to have defense on every single core, but now you do need it, and force projectors are a critical part of the defensive framework because they block all attacks lightly, but they can basically completely stop the electric attacks like the Quasar, Oct. I guess not. I don't know how Vela's probably shred through them pretty fast, but anything T3 or lower electronic attacks are pretty weak against them, and they'll buy a lot of time against flares unless it's a massive amount of flares. So they'll definitely keep my little baby cores from dying. I always forget to upgrade the cores to nucleus and foundation. Should really start doing that. That makes the core, which is a 3x3 right now, that's the littlest core. That will make it a 4x4 or a 5x5, and those have a lot more health, and that's the big advantage. That's why you would want to do that, so they don't die to the opponents. I guess a quick reminder, we've already seen it a bunch of times, but this game mode, you are trying to capture these little circles. I call them hexes. They do have a hexagonal shape there, some of the walls. The walls are randomly generated. You could have openings in them. You could have big solid walls in between them. You could have little skinny walls that could be crossed by your spiders, your Atrax, Spyroct, and T4, T5 spiders. Yeah. We used to have only air versions of this. Now it's never spawns with a completely only air, which I like. That was kind of boring to just have walls everywhere and you have to do air. But yeah, anyway, now I'm out of sand. You can see the gradual buildup. Now that I've gotten to domes, that's unlocked a lot more power in my economy. I still have barely built any units, but we're going to invest in some Atrax. And I noticed that Catgirl is pretty weak. You can see all my cores have moderate amounts of defense. A lot of them have those swarmers already. And all we're facing are flares. Which the swarmers can obliterate easily. Even without power, they're totally fine. Yeah, they'll hit the differential generator, kill one or two, but that's not a problem. We'll just add the force projector, like I mentioned. Great defense, and did spark a fire, so gotta wash that down. Gonna add a little oil tsunami there. Very deadly, but that will start a lot of fires too. It's fine. Titanium is slightly low at only 3K. Honestly, silicon is not really rocking here. I'm up to 4K, but I've barely built any infrastructure for it. It's because I'm not building any units that I'm not running out, but here we go. Units. Time for Zenith. I think titanium's going to be the problem because it is slightly lower, but silicon is going to be a problem pretty fast. Nevertheless, going to overdrive dome that as well. Get even more silicon. We're almost out of sand. Got to keep that balancing act going. But we'll get all the extra stuff. I've noticed the sand problem. And power would be a bit of an issue. All this stuff takes a ton of power, especially once you add the dome. It increases the amount of power required by 200%, 250%, something like that. But they also work 250% faster, which is obviously fantastic and really accelerates things. We're going to plop in some fortress. So this is the first time I'm building any T3. Again, quite late, 21 minutes. We are deep into the game for T3 to be making an appearance, but here they are. This is what makes me think Sire, well, they've got, not Sire, I don't know, Catgirl, whoever they are. Got some quasars. Not quasars, what are those little guys? Pulsars. Misplaced that. I've got nothing here that's attacks ground, but the force projectors are completely saving. Like I mentioned, the electric attacks are useless against force projectors, so that is no problem. It's also gave me a great reminder to build a bunch more thorium reactors. It looks like Catgirl went in for a snipe a little bit on that core, at least to smash the T3 factories for a moment. I realized I am out of silicon. Fix the power on that thorium. We're going to cut the silicon flow to units, although I only did the Zenith. I left the fortress going there. I've noticed my little scheme, it's benefiting from the phased overdriver there, but because the phased overdriver doesn't hit the little phase bridge, it's not getting any power. Or it's not going fast enough to absorb all of the materials until I dome it. So dome's good. Let's see. Lancers are holding the fortress at bay for a moment. Fortresses are useless against force projectors as well, so that's another thing that force projectors are great at blocking. And I decide I need flares. I'd really like to have a diverse army composition. All of the units serve slightly different roles. The Zenith are your power horse, workhorse for sure at capturing things. They've got mobility, which is fantastic, so they can snipe, they can run around and harass your opponent. They're really annoying to fight off. Scatters are hardly enough to deal with them. You have to really mass meta scatters, and even then when you've got a whole cloud of like 50 Zenith, that's not going to do much against scatters. I mean, scatters aren't going to do much against them. So I should have turned on my Zenith again. I haven't yet, but I'm going to do a little bit of micro here. I noticed a lot of the cores are honestly pretty unprotected. Fortress would make quick work of those. And this core, right on the middle of the screen with all the flare production, has no air defense, so I could have easily sniped that with Zenith earlier. Catgirl, oh yeah, they're very distracted by a fight with Name. Interesting name. And I don't mean to BBB there. We'll go ahead and delete that. BBB, building versus building, is frowned upon in the server for somewhat obvious reasons. It's just annoying, kind of ugly. That's where you're using turrets against your opponent's buildings, turrets shooting at other turrets. it just turns into like a nasty turf war, and that's not super fun. Here we're going to see Zeniths versus Scatters, although I think better of it. I really wish that I had the Fortress down here. They would have cooked this. But that is adequate defense against whatever I've got there, 10 Zeniths. I can't dive straight in on that core. I try and... Oh, I've got the Atrax. They're going to kill that core. No problem. See, there's 0 ground defense there. That's the benefit of the Atrax and why I mentioned having a diverse army. I've got Atrax, I've got Flares, I've got some Mace, I've got Fortress and Zenith. And all 5 of those are going to work in concert for a long time. The next thing I would need is T4 and maybe Quasar, because Quasar can snipe because they can fly. That's the T3 green guys. They're solid. You can now see that as I take these cores, that's really going to set back Catgirl even more. So I'm just ahead and pressing the advantage. I've got supreme defense basically on all my cores until you've got a thick cloud of Zenith supported with a bunch of Fortress. That would be enough to take this down, or T4. But yeah, now we're going to just micro our way to victory practically. The eco is stable with this amount of units, but I could have also definitely invested more in the economy. The better players, I imagine, would continue to invest in their economy a little bit. Also, I'm really bad at saving the hexes from dying at the moment. That core's on fire. I really need to water it. Boom, it just popped. I'll lose everything in here. I gotta get all the units out because in this game mode, every time a core dies, there is a chance that the units will die. There's, it's a fixed chance. I forget what it is, like 50% or something. And he's gonna die with the flares. I'm gonna lose it again. Slightly annoying, but we're eventually gonna do this. We got tons of units, and those flares can't keep coming forever. There's also a chance for units to die based on how far away they are from your cores. So if your units are all the way across the map, they have some chance to die by every tick, every second. There's a some. I'm not sure entirely what it is. This time I'm going to make sure I don't lose the hex by tossing in those metascatters to make sure that I can't be flare sniped again. And we're going to get in big defense to really secure things now. And now it's just a matter of time. I've got my diverse unit composition collecting there. If I was a bit more aggressive, I could even fight here. I'm not sure what Catgirl is up to with this move. I mean, it's just right in my face, unprotected core. You're not going to get away with that. And now I noticed that a lot of their cores can be sniped. And I will continue to take these cores with this defense that I stole from Terran, another top player. It's a pretty standard type setup with the Surge Swarmers, the Tsunami. It would benefit from some fuses, though. Fuses right next to the core, because people dive right on the cores, and then the fuses will help with that. I'm going to take care of a different guy for a moment. Just send some flares to ruin this guy's day. And they will not be very happy about it. Like I mentioned, the inexperienced player to the north who wasn't bothering us, so I just let them survive. And expanded in a different direction, fought my most aggressive enemy. That's again, that core, I could have sniped that ages ago. With even fewer Zenith would have done it. The flares rush in to take it back. But that's alright, it's a net gain for me. I'm going to be able to take it back again, and then I think I'll be able to make the defense this time, or maybe the next time, eventually. But I'm going to spam out some more polys here to help with these takeover efforts. Eco is still very stable, but you can see we're actually pretty much right on... and that's again where I'm bad at protecting hexes. I probably could have protected that if I was a little quicker, spamming down like power nodes or something. Now he's going to sit on the hex to protect it, but I can just sweep in with units on all these other hexes that don't have swarmer protection. My swarmers are easily going to wipe out any of those remaining zeniths, and everything's going to start to fall here. Catgirl tries to micro a little bit to save some stuff, but yeah, that's game. GG for the primary opponent. Now, you can see the minimap is a bit crowded. There's some other decent players down there, but Catgirl was our highest rated opponent. A surge tier there, you can see the highest ranking. I'm currently just a lead rank. The ranking system is very cool. Oh, I've run out of plastanium. We haven't been ecoing at all for a while. We've just been relying on everything we built so far, but it's time for some big old upgrades. We'll build a pretty big plastanium factory here. I mean, I've seen bigger, I guess, but that's pretty big in my view. And drop a dome on it. Hopefully power is still good. That enormous thorium reactor corner is still basically powering every single thing in my base. I've got a variety of differential generator cores as well that are domed up, but that's doing the heavy lifting for sure. Just spam down some more eco as we take a moment and consolidate our position. I'm using the command all hotkeys there. I think I did the waypoint one. Control H. I'm still getting used to those. I constantly misclick my Control H and send it into somebody else's base at the moment. It's a little finicky. But yeah, we're doing some micro here. We're going to take out the guy in the north. We're going to harass this guy in the south with the fortresses. There's another change. I don't remember exactly when this happened, that units and turrets both deal 50% less damage. So the time to kill is higher, basically, is what that means. The units take longer to destroy stuff. The turrets take longer to destroy the units. It balances out in the end, and it slows down the pace of play just a little bit, which I think is pretty good because the game is already very fast in terms of how quickly you need to react to something. It makes it so that your cores will survive 50% longer. They still die very quickly too when they're completely unprotected and unupgraded, as I forget to upgrade. But now we're going to go on some missions. Again, not doing any eco here. It would be better if I slapped down a massive scheme while I'm doing this micro. And I'm only microing like 4 zeniths. I've got like probably 50 zeniths. Or maybe I used them up. But anyway. Yeah, we gotta continue to consolidate the position, make some more defense, build some more eco. Like I mentioned, there are enormous schemes these days that will fill up an entire corner of the hex, which I will do eventually a little bit. I'd experiment with that. I don't really have a handle on those yet. I haven't used them that much, so I'm just testing them out. I haven't made my own version yet. I'm going to make my own versions of schemes a little bit later. Soon, probably. Let's get those polys to assist me. I always forget to micro the polys. Oh, another thing, I haven't even built megas. I always forget to build megas. They are the T3 version of polys and monos. And the major benefit of them is that they mine. In fact, they can mine titanium. So after that, your titanium needs are settled. Once you have a domed double mega maker, you should be well set for life on titanium production. But I forgot to make them. It's fine. The good spawn made up for all of that and the relative safety. Now I'm going to build another enormous thorium reactor that's going to cover the rest of my power needs for the rest of the game, probably. But stable eco It's not so stable. Oh, I misplaced that. Wretched. Delete it and rebuild it completely. Oh, yeah. This is where I'm like, okay, I've seen these massive late game schemes. Let me try and make this guy. But I can't quite afford it with just, I had about 3K silicon before I started, and it's going to bankrupt me completely. Pretty much. Well, no, not pretty much. It will. So that's no good. I've got enough units now to attack again. You see this many fortresses and we're still unable to break through a force projector until I kill the power, and then it falls. Let's see what else we can snipe. Okay, so they left after facing quite a few attacks there. I'm unsure why it's not working. There's multiple problems with it. One, the core didn't get upgraded, and now it's too expensive to upgrade. It's just, I feel like it's almost there, but my silicon, like I mentioned, was very stable. Also, I clicked right there, and I don't know what happened in that second. It looked like it was building, and then it didn't build. I don't know if it's a visual glitch. Anyway, it's no good, but we are continuing to consolidate the map. We've got enough flares in Zenith to take on everybody, and the other big problem with this is I have not yet built the sand. It needs an air blast, not an air blast. It needs a mass driver to feed it up on the top of the hex. You can see it. Anyway, I just go back to my old scheme for the core. Screw that one. I'll fix it later. Eventually, I think I come back and figure out what the problem was with it. But yeah, our final opponent here has enough to resist this initial attack. Although I will snipe what I can. Go behind their back and take that guy out. And then we will bring in the fortresses to clean up that area. I'm still not sure why it's not finished. Oh, it's because I didn't have enough silicon. That's what I think, at least. And it's kind of true. The core didn't upgrade. So slap down some more silicon. And this is where I'm not sure what happened here. Some glitch or something. It won't let me build the foundation core. I think because it thinks it already built or something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, I have been relearning Mindustry for about a week, and I'm very much enjoying it. So don't know if I'm fully made a comeback, but I enjoyed that game, and I'm enjoying a lot of other games that I've been able to get recently. Still difficult to get games, as it's always been, against quality opponents at the right times. You know, you get into a game 10 minutes late, and there's no chance to come back. You've got to wait 30 minutes to an hour before the next game starts. So that's inconvenient with this server, but the joys of winning such a game far outweigh that, in my opinion. I've accidentally set my waypoint into the enemy's hex here, so I just fixed that. I'm running low on phase as well. I haven't been noticing that constant decline in the amount of phase. And this final opponent is putting up a little bit of a fight here. I don't have the unit production coming in. Now I've completely run out of phase. So that's going to slow down unit production because no more domes working. It takes me a minute to notice though. And instead I want to go for T4. An old T4 scheme. Now I notice the phase is gone because the blinking overdrive projectors there, force projectors that is, are an indication that phase is missing. So they use phase to get bigger, you know, like that. And when it is missing, they're getting a phase for a second and then it's gone. So I'm gonna try and fix that here. Building on quite a bit of overdriven phase. Hopefully it should pop back up. And I realize power is low, probably just because the overdrive domes aren't working. But you know, if it doesn't work domed, then it might not be enough power. Sorry, if it doesn't work undomed, it might not be enough power domed either. Annoying how these builds sometimes the infrastructure under the wiring happens later than the Thor reactors, and so the Thor reactors blow up if they have just thorium in there and no cryo fluid. Slight issue for those guys, but that should solve our power problems for sure. That was a ton of power, and this should finally solve our phase problems. And once we have phase, the silicon starts to tick back up. You can see we are using a considerable amount of silicon, but we are also producing quite a bit, and we remain in this sort of stable silicon equilibrium. Yeah, where it's ticking up fast, but also going down fast. And we're finally producing enough phase to keep up. Man, I'm using tons and tons of phase. I think it's a little excessive to put phase into every single overgiant projector on all of the defenses, and that's the issue that's happening right now. So now we can do a little bit of micro, snipe the power, should drop the shields. May as well go for the second one while the batteries run out there. Try and kill the power by attacking that last hex and get everybody involved here. We've got plenty of units to put them to full use. Use the flares to snipe the little unprotected hexes back here. Shut down everything. Get the ATRACs involved. And or we can just pick this guy to pieces. Full court blitz. Blitzkrieg, their hexes. They have the one power hex left, but everything else is dead, nearly. So, fun little cleanup there. Catgirl wants an invite. We'll take him on. Just to help finish off the game here. But this is how you finish a game as well. Bring all your units down, go in, snipe the power in order to cut things off, attack whatever is vulnerable. And the units have different uses, which I've alluded to. The fortress are great at long-range bombardment. Oh yeah, if you snipe a hex with units in it, like I've mentioned earlier, there's a percentage chance that they will die. So in order to pick off those remaining zenith, I'm going to have the flares go in there and snipe the core again. Yeah, you can see pop, some of them went. Bring the power down. Every core fantastically well protected. Finally, we can just show off with a little T4 here. But I need to throw it on full assault. This is a little gratuitous to go ahead and build this at this point. Probably can't even afford it if the silicon continues to tick down. And I doubt we have enough plast, although it's climbing pretty fast. But we're probably, our coal and sand are both draining, I believe. Pardon. Just micro down these last couple of hexes. But yeah, GG. You probably stopped watching already. But yeah, I've been I was gonna mention a couple updates. I got married. I got a new computer. I moved to Tennessee. I just bought a house. So life's been very good. for me since I stopped playing Mindustry, but even before I was playing Mindustry, I was having a great time. So, yep, I played a bunch of other games in the last 2 years when I sort of gave up Mindustry. But, yeah, I'm back a little bit, at least now. I still have some work to do learning how to play the late game in today's environment. I think that the core is not working for this, but the core is fine. It's the sand needs to go in the mass driver, and it takes me a minute to realize this. I think maybe it's power. It's not power. It is the mass driver. There we go. Now finally everything's going to come online. And I feel dumb for missing that. But there it goes. Full assault is on. We will clear the whole hex. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, follow for the next video. Probably will make another one, we'll see. Apologies for the mic being on during the game, but yeah. There you go.